Hi, welcome to Uber Vitality's Health Transformation 6-week quick intro presentation. If you're living in this modern world, I'm sure you're trying to figure out and navigate all the confusing information around health. And living in the 21st century is entirely different than even 50 or 100 years ago in terms of the environment. Now, most of modern medicine, even functional medicine individuals, alternative, are all focusing on what I like to say is the fuel type. I see the body and the mind in perfect harmony in terms of creation. We're like a Formula One race car, like a Ferrari, your favorite sports car, whatever it might be. But the whole modern medicine paradigm is all about, even the food gurus and diet, is all about the fuel type. What kind of fuel you're putting into your engine. And that's whether that's paleo, keto, vegetarian, raw, vegan, etc., etc. There's going to be more trends. Every year there's a new trend, right? But despite all the new trends, we keep seeing illness and diseases on the rise. Despite all, having accessibility to organic foods, modern technology, information, exercise programs, all the fitness apps. The CDC came out last year showing, despite all the individuals, the highest level of participation in fitness, obesity continues to rise. And matter of fact, obesity, 30 to 40% of the US population are suffering from metabolic dysfunction. And a third of Americans are overweight, which leads to metabolic dysfunction in terms of high blood pressure, cardiovascular, diabetes, etc., etc. I'm sure you know what the story is. But when it comes to quantum health, and that's what Uber Vitality is all about, and I will define for you what is optimal wellness. Because optimal wellness means being disease-free. It means waking up in the morning without aches and pains, without prescription drugs, without seeing a doctor every other week. Whether they're natural drugs in terms of supplements, expensive doctor's lines, from probiotics to adrenal fatigue, from melatonin, sleep disorders, the list of malfunction in terms of disease is endless today in the modern world, despite that we have all this information at the tip of our fingertips, right? So, we live in an interesting time where all diseases are on the rise. We have all access to all this information, but our Formula One is still misfiring. And that's the point. If it was all about food and supplements, then we should be thriving. Actually, disease should be going down, but it's on the contrary, it's going up. And that because modern medicine, even the functional medicine people today, are not addressing the environment you create for your cellular structure. So in other words, here's the metaphor in terms of your Formula One is backfiring. It's misfiring, it's blowing black smoke, and so the whole paradigm is worried about what kind of fuel type you're putting into your engine. And then you have the exercise people who want you to do more laps faster. Well, I can tell you, if you already have a cellular malfunction in terms of losing energy, and you're doing these intense exercises like CrossFit, that's just going to exasperate. Like putting pedal to the metal. If your engine's backfiring at 60 miles an hour and they're asking you to go at 110 miles an hour, that's just going to exasperate and create more inflammation, more cortisol, and so this is the issue today, right? When we talk about optimal wellness, it's talking about being disease-free, having high energy, having a metabolism that works, not being not chasing every diet, fad, trend, supplement, anti-aging, magic pill, whatever have you. Because the foundation of health really today, when I'm talking about your engine, talking about, this is based on science and biology, talking about the mitochondria. And that's where all the research is happening today. How do you get, and you might not even heard about the mitochondria, but this is the subset of your cell, has its own DNA, 37 different genes, and which is a lot more insensitive to your environment. And I'm speaking where you work, where you live, and where you exercise. Really critical. And so the health protocols that Uber Vitality that we work with address all these issues, and they're unique to each individual because each individual has different genetics. And the genetics comes from the maternal side, the mother's side. And your environment is like a sixth sense. It notices it. Your perception level doesn't sense it, but your mitochondria definitely does. And the Genome Project actually proved this. They spent over $100 billion on this research back in the mid 2000s, and they discovered that actually the level of the let's say the statistical percentage of inheriting disease from your mother's side is actually really low. It's only like 10-20%. So in other words, 80% of health is really based on what kind of environment you create for your cells, your cellular structure, your being. Because we come into this planet from the maternal side with a loaded gun of predisposition genes. What triggers the good, the bad genes in terms of disease is the environment you create for it. Now, if you notice, I did not say food or fitness. The mitochondria are more sensitive to the environment, and that's what we practice here at Uber Vitality. We shoot to create vitality no matter what age you are. We want you to thrive at any age, and that's whether you're a 30-year-old who has fertility issues in terms of infertility, whether it's the male or the female. You don't need to spend $10,000, $15,000 on in vitro fertilization clinics because they're popping up like Starbucks, unfortunately. And diet is not going to do it. Fitness is not going to fix your infertility. It's more an environmental issue, and you shouldn't have to spend that much money to do the most basic natural instinct in terms of procreation, right? And then on the other spectrum, you have 50-year-olds. It's also a hormonal issue, but tied to 2 decades later in terms of low testosterone, where there's low testosterone clinics also popping like Starbucks, where you have to rely and spend $400 or $500 a month on exogenous testosterone to feel better. The problem is you become reliant on that for life, and as soon as you get off of it, you crash. And it doesn't give you the same benefits as being able to produce it naturally. And as it goes for women also, women today are experiencing early perimenopause, right, in their 40s versus later part of their 50s. Now it's all hormonal, but also the neurotransmitters plays a huge role in terms of mood. Today a big issue is mood and anxiety, right? All the antidepressant, SSRI, serotonin reuptake drugs, and the suicide rates are off the charts because we're designed to feel good, right? We're going to seek behaviors, whether they're positive or negative, to make ourselves feel better, and that's through endorphins, right? Which something comes really naturally, but coming back to the environment, this new artificial environment is really disrupting that. And I can't get into the details here, but this is the quantum approach, right? Versus just focusing on 1950s biochemistry, we're treating the person not from a disease standpoint, not as a doctor standpoint, but to educate you on how to thrive in this modern environment, in this tech environment. Because if we figured that part out as nature is working her perfection, we would be thriving as a species. But what's interesting, we're not. Like I said, disease is off the charts. There's no real solutions except half-truths. There's a little bit of truth in everything, but it's not addressing the root foundation, back to the root foundation of your Formula One. So, here at Uber Vitality, we're approaching it from a quantum perspective, a 21st century perspective, in terms of you come into this planet, nothing is wrong with your hardware, right? Most of you are not dealing with a disease, but what you are dealing with is a lot of different health issues, and that's more to do with your software. A few decades of corrupt software are going to have consequences on your hardware in terms of your mitochondria being able to detox at night naturally. In terms of, I'm speaking about apoptosis, mitophagy, in terms of your body ability to clean up all the proteins and feel rejuvenated in the morning. If you're not feeling rejuvenated in the morning, it's probably because you're not sleeping well, and because all the magic in terms of rejuvenation happens in the evening. Yes, and the solution is not more melatonin. Melatonin is actually created through the retina of the eye. It's not created in the 1980s in a lab, a synthetic form, where you have to keep taking more melatonin, which, by the way, that creates a circadian mismatch because you're taking it externally, so it works on a short-term basis, but then what ends up happening, you're spending hundreds of dollars every month on all these sleep aids, whether they're natural, ambient, pharmaceutical, neurotransmitters like GABA. You know, they're all going to work for a short period of time, but the pharmaceuticals are going to have consequences. They're going to be side effects. Like with any drug, the list of adverse effects is lengthy. So if you're interested in a more natural ability to thrive at any age, like I said, that's our motto here at Uber Vitality. Okay, thanks for watching.